Today I'm going to explain the process of genetic modification and how it is not a moral process based off of the information that I've researched. In today's healthcare system, the enormous knowledge and continuous research are now able to determine methodologies that can alter DNA coding. According to Nature Review Genetics, genetic modification is defined as phenotypic variation when the expression of one gene alters the expression of another gene. Here are some things to consider when deciding whether genetic modification is ethical or not. Genetic modification is very expensive. The Frontier Technology Quarterly states that because genetic modification is very expensive, not everyone has access to it. This also means that not everyone will have the opportunity to benefit from it. Although genomics is the future of medicine, it tends to target only a certain kind of people, the wealthy. So although the idea of gene editing was initially made to cure disease-causing genes, 78% of the US population wouldn't even be able to afford genetic modification. Although gene editing is the hope for curing diseases, it can also lead to undesirable changes to the genome. According to Pan American Life, with this new technology, parents can decide genes that have nothing to do with their well-being. Current technology has already proved that changing DNA anomalies can lead to serious health complications to the offspring and future generations. Scientists are concerned that parents will try to achieve desirable traits such as being smarter or taller with the technology that was created to initially eliminate disease-causing genes. The Pan American Life website says that the number of fertilization clinics offering the option to choose the baby's gender is increasing. This has forced a company to give regulatory approval to market tests that predict the risks of illnesses such as heart diseases and diabetes due to this gene editing. This leads to an ongoing conversation about the ethical implications of genetic engineering in both the scientific community and elsewhere. Modifying genes can also make profound risks to children and the future generations. According to the Genetics and Society website, altering the genomes of someone's offspring before they're born could cause alterations to pass through generations, changing the DNA of their bodies forever. It just takes a tiny change in one gene to result in physical disability, shortened lifespan, or disease, according to kidshealth.org. Therefore, it is important that genetic modification is only used for preventing diseases, or it could lead to generations of genetically mutated babies. In addition, there have already been methods found to prevent inherited diseases in babies without manipulating genes. According to genome.gov, a person's genetic makeup determines how the body breaks down certain medicines. There are certain types of tests that are used to test if the person is going to have this disease that does not involve manipulating a gene. Altering a gene can potentially lead to a mutated genes that will be passed through generations, affecting generations inevitably. Medical research should always seek balance between benefits and risks. And germline editing has more risks than benefits, with individuals who participate to give full informed consent. Because the individuals whose lives are potentially at risk due to germline editing could extend to generations in the future, not every individual affected would be able to give fully informed consent. By following the process that medical research goes through, this proves that genetic modification is not an ethical process. There are also issues of equity and justice. StatsNews.com points out who would have access to this germline editing. They also point out, should we want to accept that only those with financial resources have the chance to improve the genomes of their children? If genomes are being altered to suit their personal preferences, do children become more like commodities rather than special gifts? Now let's review the reasons that genetic modification is not a moral or ethical process. Through the research that has been conducted, there are multiple reasons that point out that genetic modification is not an ethical process. Genetic modification is very expensive, so it's not open to everyone. Although it is meant for curing diseases, genome editing can lead to undesirable changes in children. Modifying genes can lead to many risks in children and future generations. Methods to prevent inherited diseases have already been proven effective without manipulating genes. Genetic modification does not meet the justification of medical research because the risks outweigh the benefits. It is also hard to justify who would have access to these technologies. All in all, the cons of genetic modification outweigh the pros, making it a not ethical process.